Just waiting for Instagram to log on there. Welcome. I think tonight's the first time we are broadcasting in HD. I don't know. I pushed a button. It seemed to work, so there you go. Welcome to the Idaho Sheriff Livestream broadcast with Dan Wilson for Kootenai County Sheriff. I'm your co-host and producer, Donna Wilson, here to screen your questions and comments. We are discussing all things liberty without compromise, and we are the only flim-flam-free broadcast in all of Kootenai County. Take a moment right now to share this live stream to your profile and to send your questions or comments through to Dan. Put them into the comment section on whichever platform you're joining us tonight, whether that be Facebook, YouTube, or Instagram. For the most interactive full-screen experience, be sure to watch on Facebook or YouTube. You can even use that YouTube app on your smart TV. Get a good, clean picture, and you can see what we're putting up on screen. For those listening back on our podcast, thank you so much. And anyone can listen to that podcast and subscribe on whichever platform you get those shows. Remember to subscribe to our YouTube channel. That's the Idaho Sheriff. And then remember to like and follow our Facebook page. Got to do that. Now here's the only sheriff candidate in Kootenai County endorsed by Sheriff Richard Mack, retired Brigadier General Blaine Holt, former heavyweight champ David Nino Rodriguez, and backed by numerous current and retired law enforcement from all over the West Coast and right here in Kootenai County. Here's Dan Wilson.
Howdy, folks. Thanks for joining us. 34 days until decision time. So glad that all my friends from Kootenai County are listening in right now. This is a great opportunity to hit that share button, share with your friends. We don't have much time left to get the message out of liberty without compromise all over this county. Decisions have to be made. Incompetency has to be removed. The security of this county for the next 4 years is in you, the citizens' hands. Now, to all my friends in the surrounding region, welcome also. I appreciate the messages I receive all week long about you and your own communities where you are battling and fighting for this liberty without compromise. We have tonight many things to discuss. We have events that are going to come up, and in fact, I'll just rattle a couple of those out right now. But let me digress a little bit. Last Friday at Life Coffee House, we had an event where I was a special guest. You were obviously with me, so I say we.
I was the plus one.
You were.
Yeah.
You were gorgeous, by the way.
Oh, thank you.
Friends that came out to that event, I am overwhelmed by your support, your generosity, and how much fun we had. I couldn't believe how fast the night went.
And for those of you who couldn't make it or just didn't take the time, you missed something phenomenal, and that was Dan Wilson opening the karaoke hour. He opened it. He broke the ice, sang one of his favorite karaoke tunes. You missed it. I don't think it was documented, so you had, if you weren't
Brooke,
there, you just flat out missed it.
And Amy were both there. Amy Franstrom, Amy McCamey, Brooke and Dave, thank you so much for your support. There's numerous others that we don't have time to list today, but you know who they are.
I want to nudge everybody also. Go onto the Facebook page, and I think over on your Instagram, we have a testimonial video that came out from that event. Simple question asked to a whole bunch of people that were in attendance that night. The simple question was, why are you voting for Dan Wilson? And there are some incredible testimonials that just ended up being very enlightening as to why people are supporting you.
I love this county. I love the people that are here. We have good people. This is a safe community, and we can continue to make it safe. Now, other events coming up. We have on tomorrow, I say on tomorrow, I'm going to be interviewed by the Inlander. Now, the Inlander has been known to be more socialist leaning. So I'm curious as to what they're going to be
See if they
discussing.
alter your headshot. They asked for your headshot today. We'll see if they alter your headshot.
Well, but you know what? My message is one that I want anybody and everybody to hear. So even if you don't agree with me ideologically, guess what? I will still protect you, and I will serve you with equal protection under the law. The 5th, Saturday, we have a great event. I've been looking forward to this one. Safe Harbor's 5K event. Safe Harbor combats human trafficking here in Kootenai County, and I am honored to be part of that program. So come on out and see us. We're going to be at what, Riverstone?
It's Riverstone Park. And then also for registration information for that 5K event, if you want to run in the race, I think it's family friendly. I think it's dog friendly too. Registration information is on our website, theidahosheriff.com. Click on the events tab. It's also there in the events section on our Facebook page. Of course, you can also just Google Safe Harbor because they've got that there on their website. But lots of easy ways to find it so that you can participate in the 5K run, support the organization, and then also just stop by our booth and say hello to Dan. Are you going to run the 5K and then hang out?
I don't know yet.
You can do it
possible.
all.
Well,
You can do
5K,
it all.
I mean, yeah, whatever.
You can do it.
Then we have on Monday the 14th, they moved the Coeur d'Alene Press Chamber interview of candidates. I guess they found out that 5 days wasn't enough time to get 30 candidates out there. So we are going to be participating in that on the 14th. Then we have a great event coming up. Now, in between these, we have numerous small meet and greets, and we'll be putting those up on our website when they come out on Facebook, social media, Instagram. But on the 21st, we moved it. Our town hall was moved from the 7th, this coming Monday. We have now moved it 2 further weeks out to the 21st at North Idaho College. Details to come. You're not going to want to miss this. This will include guests that will be speaking, and we're very excited to be able to meet with all the citizens of the county that want to come out and listen to our message, ask their final questions before the big day that's right around the corner, November 5th. And reminder, it doesn't matter if you are unaffiliated, affiliated with the Republicans, Democrats, Socialists, Constitutionalists, Libertarians, you can vote for me. And out of the 2 choices that you have right now in Kootenai County, you can choose not to vote, and that's just throwing your vote away. You can choose somebody that has gone into libraries and pulled books and decided arbitrarily what they think is or isn't correct, even though there was no crime charged. Not to say that I'm against parents having a choice to say what their minor can or can't have, but there is one man in this county that no matter what his belief is, says that he will protect everybody's rights and respect everybody equally under the law. So I need your vote. I need you to go out and tell others about me. And look, you don't want another 4 years with Bob Norris. 4 more years with Bob Norris is bad news. By the way, he's been missing in action pretty much for the past two plus weeks. We've been hearing from deputies in the inside, wondering where he's at, what's going on. He's missed a couple events. He's had to phone call in some of his town halls. I was going to say there was a KXLY interview yesterday that aired on their news station last night, and Bob Norris phoned that one in too. Yeah, phoned it in.
Kind of weird. Where is he?
So what we're going to talk about tonight is some things that are going on. What's going on with Bob Norris and some announcements that he's made that's gotten people pretty worked up here in the county. We're also going to talk about law enforcement that has come out in large support of Dan Wilson. We're going to talk about 911 and the problems in the sheriff's office right now and what we're going to do to fix that. We also have, I guess we're going to talk about some of my philosophies when it comes to how long you should serve and some of the other leadership things that a sheriff should be doing. So without further ado.
Yeah, you made a comment on how long you should serve in office, and you made a commitment to the people of the county.
Yeah.
And that ended up being a controversial promise that you made.
Well, look,
I know
all of my detractors, those that are in the Bob Norris camp, we've been accused for 10 months of being nothing but mudslingers, and I defy anybody on any social media platform to find anybody that's one of my supporters flinging mud. Contrary, it happens to be the opposing side. And those that call themselves Christians have been the most heinous in their response. And we're going to talk about this in a few minutes, but by and large, when I posted this video just a few days ago, I said the following. In the words of George Washington, no, I'm not going to serve more than 2 terms. Now, did he really say it like that? No, but that's the gist. George refused to become president for life. And I believe that part of the problem that we have in our country today at all levels, county, state, federal, is politicians that serve far too long. I believe for the majority, this is my personal belief, there are exceptions to the rule, but the majority of those that have served more than 8 years without a break become corrupted. And so I've said, I will not serve more than 2 terms.
some of the lashback you got or comments from the naysayers were, so you're saying you can only handle it? That what a weak move. You can only handle not getting corrupted for 8 years and you're topped out at that.
Yeah. I know human nature, and I think that one of those was one of the sergeant's mother that has been trolling me quite a bit on social media.
Yeah.
And it happens to be the mother of the sergeant of KCSO, who also happens to be the
helicopter mom.
It literally. She also happens to be the Fraternal Order of Police FOP Lodge 43 president. And so, you know, she has created shrines to me. And I really appreciate that for the shrines that you've created and all the things that you're saying. You're driving the traffic to my website even greater. And people are giving you a little bit of a blowback for your underhanded attacks and for the making fun in the way that you're doing it. Now, the other thing that people lost their minds over is this. I've said over and over again that being the sheriff is not my identity. I can't be bought. I can't be sold. I am solely doing this because I'm compelled that nobody else was going to pick up the reins and challenge Bob Norris for all of his deficiencies, for his lack of vision, for his lack of action, and for being a professional politician for the past 4 years. Now, the sheriff's salary is now at a whopping $160-some thousand. And of course, I believe that part of my mission to serve the community is not to become rich. And so I've already stated, and I've talked to a county commissioner-elect, and I've stated and received the understanding that I can petition the Board of County Commissioners, and I'm going to ask them to reduce my salary from the $160,000 plus per year to $99,000 per year, with the remainder of that difference going back towards my new volunteer services division that I'm going to completely revamp in the Kootenai County Sheriff's Office. And that's going to be in charge of not only the volunteer posse, but chaplains, the deputy reserve program, the posse, all of that. So I got blowback from that as well.
You did. I want to put in a positive comment here. We got Greyheart. Thank you for watching from YouTube tonight. He says, howdy, Dan. Met some of your supporters out on Highway 95. They told me about your live, so thought I'd tune in. Wants to know how we're doing this evening. We are doing great. And then I thought we would read this outstanding testimonial from Deputy Hart maybe before we go into some of the other things we have ready for you tonight. Bringing that. I actually... okay, you have the text because I can't read that.
You can't read it? Do you want me to read it, or do you want to read it?
I can read it.
Here you go.
Yeah, if you hand it off over.
I don't have my spectacles.
All right. I can. Oh, yeah.
You have a much sexier radio voice than me.
So an outstanding testimonial from Deputy Hart says, under the leadership of Sheriff Bob Norris, the staffing situation at Kootenai County Sheriff's Office has reached a point of critical mass. Recruiting efforts to attract new qualified deputies are marginal at best. Any measures by Sheriff Norris and his command staff to reduce the continued exodus of experienced deputies is ineffective. As a 15-year retired veteran of the Kootenai County Sheriff's Office, I will state without reservation that continuing to request additional funds for staffing from the BOCC and requiring existing deputies to work 12-hour shifts with mandatory and excessive overtime is counterproductive. It only serves to compound the existing problem of staffing. It does not work. It also is unsafe and unhealthy. As one experienced deputy who recently left the sheriff's office told me, I will not allow the department to work me into an early grave because they cannot fix the staffing problem. The winds of change are on the horizon. Dan Wilson is not a political hack with an underlying agenda. Dan Wilson is obligated to no one, including the rhinos within the Kootenai County Republican Party. Dan Wilson is an ethical man. Dan Wilson has a common sense business approach to achieving positive result for difficult issues. The citizens of Kootenai County and the deputies at the Kootenai County Sheriff's Office deserve better than Bob Norris. My wife and I fully support Dan Wilson in his bid for Kootenai County Sheriff. My wife and I will vote for Dan Wilson. We suggest you do the same. And that's from Deputy Hart.
Deputy Hart, man, that touched me. I really appreciate those words. They're truth. Folks, you need to know how bad it is currently in the Kootenai County Sheriff's Office. Despite 4 years of lobbying to receive pay increases for the deputies that were deserved. Despite those raises, Bob Norris cannot keep deputies in patrol, and he can't keep them in the jail. We're still over 20 plus deputies low in the jail. Conditions are dangerous.
So
I've been
this
told.
isn't just a rumor,
No.
and this isn't something
No.
that you made up to seem like you have insider knowledge.
Yeah, I know that
That's
for a
what's
fact. We
being-
have 21 deputies, a shortage of 21 deputies in the jail alone. This year, we've had 8 deputies quit, and we've had 4 that have retired. So we're down 12 just this year. We know that we're vacant 27 sworn positions. So we're down 27 deputies in the department. And that spans all divisions. And for support staff, the non-sworn, we're over 23. That's a huge number, folks. And the reason why that's happening is because of the dysfunction of the Kootenai County Sheriff's Office under the leadership or lack thereof of Bob Norris.
So pay increases have not fixed the problem of staffing issues. And would you say the staffing issues or lack thereof has become a greater problem since Norris has taken office?
It is. Just this last week, the sheriff's office had to go before the commissioners to request $260,000 in retention bonus because they cannot keep 911 operators. The 911 operators, if you happen to be listening, you know what the facts are. There's too many of you being spread too thin. There's too little of you being spread too thin. Mandatory overtime. The conditions are not good. And Bob Norris has done nothing to relieve that. Now, my transition team and I've talked about this quite often, my undersheriff is an extremely well-rounded, extremely talented man. And he understands the Kootenai County law enforcement world inside and out. He knows where all the bodies are. And we have been discussing.
For anybody who's not as high speed as you are, what does all the bodies are? What does this mean?
Well, in other words, where bad things are hiding, the things that have to be discovered, those murders, if you will, not literally, but where bad things are going on and bad actors are in the Kootenai County Sheriff's Office. Now, we have been discussing how we are going to handle things like the shortage of 911. Now, why is this a problem? Not only is it a problem for those that are working in 911 and those conditions and why we cannot keep deputies and 911 dispatchers any longer, it comes down to the leadership aspect. But when you, as a citizen, call 911, you better have somebody on the other end picking up that line. And so this is a public safety issue, not being able to have those where it's the very first contact. If you have a problem, the only way law enforcement is going to know about it is if somebody picks up a phone and calls. So my transition team and I, to include the undersheriff, have already come up with a solution that the first 90 days we will solve this problem. We already have our plan and we're ready to implement it. And I look forward to rolling that out once I become sheriff.
If you're just joining us, I want to remind you that you can put a question or comment right into the comment section on whichever platform you're watching. So that's Facebook, YouTube, or Instagram. Instagram, if you're having any connection or picture issues, just come on over to Facebook or YouTube and join us there, and you get that full screen experience. Anyway, it's kind of just the best of all worlds.
Yeah. Yep.
We have things are heating up when it comes to negativity. Yeah. You've been told since you filed and announced, now Dan, come on, run a clean campaign. Mm-hmm. That's advice that you had gotten. Mm-hmm. Don't be negative. Don't mudsling dirt on your opposition. Just tell everybody what you're going to do. Tell everybody what your message is and run on your own ability. That sounds all well and good in theory, right? Mm-hmm. And the day you announced, all the way back, the day you announced, December 6th, 2023, mm-hmm. you had a bit of a rude awakening when it comes to, well, if there are detractors and people coming out of the woodwork, pinpointing who these people are, mm-hmm. why they've been sent, mm-hmm. they're on a mission and what they're looking to accomplish. So this goes all the way back to day one. Well, actually, it was before you announced because you were sent a message.
Yeah.
I want to walk through this really, really quickly. I think we've got some entertaining, interesting video clips and photos to show you guys some of the characters that we've learned since Dan announced, the people that are some supposedly influential in political circles here in Kootenai County, some who rightly so are because they have been in positions of power and elected positions, and what we've learned about them along the way. But this started after you announced, and you were receiving messages after you filed,
Well, I
you were
filed in
receiving
October.
messages.
I filed it a year ago, almost to the day.
Yeah.
And so we were official with the Secretary of State. Anybody that wanted to know, all they had to do was go and look who was running for the position on the Secretary of State's website. But a proxy was sent to me. It was a mutual friend who texted me out of the blue one day and said, hey, have you ever thought about running for sheriff in Shoshone? And this person had already known that I was going to announce, knew that I was entering into the sheriff's race, and knew why. And so I was a little bit puzzled, and I said, well, I don't live in Shoshone County, which is the county to the east of us. And this individual said, well, you should consider moving. So I'm like, well, this is out of left field. I get on the phone, contact, and she says to me, well, I was talking with the vice chair last night, and he doesn't know your name, but I was sent to tell you that you should not run. You shouldn't run because, Bob's doing a good job and you'll split the vote. And I'm thinking these are all political geniuses. What do you mean split the vote? That's precisely what you do in a primary, is you decide if you're, I was at that time running as a Republican, who's going to be the nominee for the general elections. And so I said, absolutely not. I'm not going to drop out. And I believe in Republican policies and ideas, which means that we have a representative republic and we get to challenge our representatives, not our leaders, not our betters, not our nobility, not our royalty. We are the same, equal in all aspects of our worth. And, I'm not going to have somebody in the party tell me don't run. I mean, how about you step down from your position, Rob? Whoops.
Oh, so was that a softball, a curveball, or a wiffle ball? That was like kind of where it started. That's the starting point of our story tonight.
I don't know. I would say that was at least a softball.
So then you have your kickoff rally, December 6th, 2023, really supposed to be a celebratory occasion. Took had a question and answer section.
I gave a speech first.
It was the idea being who you are, an introduction to who you are, what your worldview is, who you are morally, ethically, historically, the things that had been important to you. And the idea was to inspire and then rally people around to say, okay, I want to follow this guy on his journey. Right. And during that Q&A session, things got a little spicy.
Yeah, like they always do.
But
I'd already been warned because we were following this local forum where this lady and her husband run this thing, and it's supposed to be. Did it start
there?
Let's
start with that then. Yeah, let's start with that.
Well, yeah, you can do that.
Okay. So yeah, Dan's referencing a forum. So before he made the announcement party, that's where I got my timeline mixed up. Because now we get to January.
Yeah. Well, no, this is back in December before, but what happened on this forum, and it's a very famous forum, hundreds of members locally. When I dropped my announcement, the hatred that I got right out of the chutes without anybody having a conversation with me, it was well over the top. So I was already warned that one of the vetting committee members of the KCRCC, one or two of them, were going to come to my event and they were going to ask me prying questions to try to get me into a corner. So anyway, go ahead and play your video.
So I did put up on the screen, this is something that we considered publishing back in the early days of the campaign because the vitriol coming from this KC Spectator group was so awful. Yeah. Before anybody even had a chance to learn what you stood for, you weren't slinging mud.
No,
you were just saying, "Hey, let's hear me out." And it was so awful that we considered publishing this just to say, people need to understand what we're dealing with in these supposed conservative circles.
And they're part of a prominent church here in Kootenai County.
So I did put this up on the screen. It's not published anywhere else. This is never before seen footage, and you get the gist. So we'll then, with that warning that we received in that political chat group, that then leads us to your announcement.
Roll that
rally.
beautiful
All
footage.
right.
I also served on a local Young Republican board.
So, can you explain to me why you posted on one of your feeds, and I don't know if it was on Facebook or...
Probably Instagram.
Okay. You hashtagged Democrat. You hashtagged Communist Party.
no.
Yeah,
And you hashtagged LGBTQ. Can you explain?
and probably liberal while I'm at it too. I probably did liberal and several other
Adjectives,
on that post and others like it. But why do I do that? Because when you hashtag, that puts your message out to all those channels. So I want my message to be heard by anybody and everybody because it's one of truth. Everything that I post, I do it out of truth. Whether it's an encouragement to people, whether it's an admonishment, whether it is to get somebody motivated, or whether it is to say a truth. People need to hear the truth no matter if you believe ideologically with them, and that is why.
Yeah. So that was regarding not even my official Instagram page for sheriff. This was my personal Instagram page, which I'd started months earlier. And it was one to where I just wanted to talk about political and spiritual things and encouragement to people. And in one of my messages, and we know that there is a lady that we've talked about on previous episodes that she's all over the place thinking that because I dare to use a hashtag for the algorithms, that means that somehow that I am supporting. And what I've said is the sheriff supports everybody equally under the law. But, I was somehow told that because I put hashtags like LGBTQ and Democrat or liberal or communist or Marxist or Christian or whatever else, that somehow that is me signaling that I'm not really, in my worldview, a conservative, that I'm somehow, a fraud.
So we have a lot to move through here on this to give you guys historically what we've been up against since the beginning.
Yeah.
And
this was a vetting committee member that had asked that question. So this is important. This is the KCRCC vetting member that asked that continual same question over and over at numerous events.
We're going to move on to the next little nugget from that same event.
How many former law enforcement officers live in this county? We should be having a reserve program like Spokane that it saved the city of Spokane almost $800,000 last year in volunteer service to the community. Is that important to you guys to know that your community was granted by people that put their time in, volunteers, almost $1 million? Sir.
I have a question. What level of post-training do they have in Spokane? Is it 1, 2, and 3, or is it only 1? Where you've gone through the full post academy.
You go through the regular academy, and then with your department, you do another post.
Yeah, because you're aware that Idaho, the state legislature, got rid of 2 and 3. And so now, in order to be post certified, you have to go through a year of training as a volunteer. And that's one of the challenges with getting volunteers in Idaho, is because they won't let you go through 2 and 3. They got rid of that. Where at level 3, you're correct about that, and we've looked at that. A level 3 or a level 2 is someone who you could have drive an inmate from the scene to the jail.
From the jail.
Right? And have the full-time deputy, complete their report and stay out in the field. But believe it or not, it's Boise that did that. It has nothing to do with a local issue.
Do you remember when you and I had a conversation when you were running for county commissioners and you told me, quote, reserve officers were a waste of time and resource?
I don't ever remember saying that.
Sir, you did.
Yes,
Well,
you
I don't
did,
ever
Bruce.
remember saying that.
Yeah. So that was Bruce Mattare, former campaign manager of Sheriff Robert Norris, who received and still has a special deputization, which means he has access to privileged information that the rest of us don't. And he's a county commissioner. He came to my kickoff rally.
He thought the current sitting county commissioner thought enough of you that he showed up at your kickoff rally
and wanted to challenge
that
me.
dissenting voice.
And not only was his challenge completely
Like right out of the
asinine,
gate.
wrong, and stupid, he didn't even listen to what I previously said about we are Copland with retired law enforcement that could be reserved. So, yeah.
And then the next event that happens is you are invited to speak at the Pachyderms, which is one of the conservative Republican groups, we started to learn that many of the same people who are part of the KCRCC also are in these segmented, the Reagan Republicans, pachyderms, and then numerous other small groups that meet at restaurants and that thing, sort of thing around town. So you're innocently invited to come speak, and you figure it's going to be some gray hairs having bacon and eggs. They're going to be respectful and listen, maybe ask tough questions, but that's what you were anticipating. Right. And here's a little bit more of what you experienced on that day.
In a recent one of your podcasts, Unspoken, you had discussed the recent sheriff's town hall, and you mentioned that the books in the library were sex education books, and those are sexually explicit. Obscene.
I know. Did I say sex? I'm just trying to make sure.
Yeah, you said I can play it for you if you like. But you said they were sex education books. So is that a lack of knowledge and understanding of what those books are, or is that what you actually call those?
I don't remember the exact quote, so I'll take it your word.
It was sex education
So
books.
what's your question?
So do you think that the sexually explicit obscene books like Identity and Traffic and The Handmaid's Tale is sex education books, or do you think those are sexually explicit obscene books?
I would assume that if there's anything sexually explicit in them, then they're sexually explicit. So I'm not certain what the question is.
Well, because I mean, anybody that is.
So we get the general idea, but this happened to be the other vetting committee member. There's two of them that traveled in tandem to many of our events, and they kept asking the same questions.
Because the lady that you hear in that video clip, which may have been hard for some to hear, the levels on that were a little bit low, but she was trying to really catch Dan in a trap as to whether or not he thought sexually explicit books and materials in underage sections of the library, whether or not that was appropriate, or if he somehow that agreed that it was okay. Right. I mean, even the method in which she was asking the question, it's like, you had to ask her, what's your question? But she also, and this is important to remember, also was at that kickoff event where we highlighted Mattare, Bruce Mattare, asking the same questions. So making a reappearance at this event.
Both those ladies that were on the vetting committee, in fact, the lady that you just heard was the one that made me finally say, I'm done with the KCRCC. I'm done being a Republican, because in our executive vetting committee meeting where I was being interviewed, she called me a liar and was yelling at me in the meeting because she was so convinced that something I said on a video was incorrect. And later on, it was discovered that she was factually incorrect. And some of the committee members learned some new facts that they weren't previously aware of, namely that special deputization of Bruce Mattare. But what do you got next?
If you're just joining us, what we're walking through is a lot of what Dan's been up against in this campaign from even prior to his announcement. So we're taking a historical walk through some entertaining video clips that help you understand some of the players on the political scene.
By the so-called Republican conservatives.
Yes, the bullying under color of authority, the positions that these people hold in the conservative community, and what they've been doing since day one. So here's a second clip with a familiar character at this same event.
Let them ask their questions,
You
please.
made a comment that you are a huge fan of law enforcement, which I think is great. So my question to you is, have you ever lied to or misled another law enforcement officer? Yes or no?
I recall.
Okay, so that's a no?
I said none that I recall.
Okay, interesting response.
I mean, you remember everything that you've ever said to anybody at any time?
If I ever
Well,
lied
know
to
what
somebody,
have
yes, I
said,
do remember
but
that.
Do you have a gun on you right now?
I do.
Okay. So this is what's interesting, is that after you'd already identified yourself as a reserve police officer, Deputy Edelbrock with the Spokane County Police came up with...
I know this one, and you're not going to tell the whole story on that one either.
Well, I'll tell you what he said, okay? And what he said was...
And just for the record, I was never disciplined. That report was sent in, and my sergeants talked with me, and there was no disciplinary action.
Well, here's what the deputy said. I asked him again, if he was currently carrying a gun.
I was on my own property.
Daniel's response was, not anymore. Now, I just asked you if you're carrying a gun, you said yes. I told Daniel that I didn't care for his evasive answers. Well, you gave me an evasive.
Was I charged with a crime, Bruce?
I was asking yes or no questions.
Okay.
He was looking.
You get the idea. So again, I'm at this forum where I'm supposed to be able to talk about my policies, and what I'm met with by these all Republicans. They all, from everything I could tell, were all part of the KCRCC crowd, those that followed it around. Fellow conservatives, this was, what, 75% hostile?
I was going to say, talk to me
75,
about the
yeah.
temperature in that room. Dan and I pulled into the parking lot.
Yeah.
Again, thinking it's just he and I. We didn't bring a throng of supporters and
Right.
people to flank us and run interference. It was he and I that showed up, and when you backed into the spot and realized who was going to be in attendance that day.
Bob Norris
okay.
was there, his wife, Bruce Mattare, his wife. You had part of the KCRCC board.
Was
Brent Reagan was there. I had never met the guy officially. I had to walk over to him. He was cold, couldn't give me the time of day. Immediately, I said hello and knew there was not anything that was going to transpire. So I went back to my seat. But again, the main reason that we're talking about this is not that, I'm so upset that these people were mean to me. Whatever. It's more to continually bring people back to the problem right now in Kootenai County, especially with the so-called Republican Central Committee. The people that should be supporting others that carry their same belief system. They're hypocrites. They're not truthful. These people have attacked us and they hit below the belt. Now, I don't mind going one-on-one with Bob and Bruce. Bruce, I don't mind ever going one-on-one with you. But we don't do that at the levels that they have done it to me. And I think it's very important that people understand when it comes time to vote, that if you vote to continue this tyrannical behavior by the Republican Central Committee, if you're part of the Republican Central Committee, I have been apologized to by committee members for the way that people in their committee treated me. You know who you are. Those of you that were appalled by the behavior, but many of you, while some were brave and have stood up and taken the hits, many of you have cowered away. And if you think that it's bad now because Bob Norris and Bruce come and pay special visits to you when they find out that you might be supporting me, what kind of tyranny is that going to look like in a couple of years? What kind of tyranny does it look like for those that aren't part of the Republican Party? I mean, we have pastors that are tied up into this that will not stand and make a stand for what is right. We have pastors that are backing this behavior. What are you guys doing? We're supposed to be conservatives. We're supposed to be acting like conservatives. What kind of hypocrisy is this? And this is why I've been so pleased to be outside of this, to finally step away when I got my head on straight to say, independent is truly the voice of the people, because so many people aren't a part of this local Republican Central Committee. They're those that are raising their families, barely surviving with the inflation the way it is, barely being able to afford rent and food and groceries. And they say, where is a sheriff in this county that has a vision for the dark times that are ahead of us, that has a plan, that has been talking about getting ready and being prepared in order to remain hopeful? Where is that person that can help us through the tumultuous times that are coming? In fact, what they see is crickets, or they see a quick press release.
Mm-hmm. Now, we can move forward that Packeter meeting. We just saw those couple of clips. Dan was then invited to speak with the Reagan Republicans, very similar crowd,
almost the same,
but from toward the beginning of January, from that first invitation for him to speak to this is toward the very end of January. Yeah. You're a quick study, so you kind of learned how this was going to go. Now, this video here doesn't have audio, but I want you to see who some of the characters were in the room that day.
North Idaho News, the guy that flanks Bob Norris everywhere and is first on the scene.
So Dan's here to speak on their invitation, and he's got some usual suspects.
Oh, that looks like Sheriff Bob Norris lurking. He was lurking that day.
They did a really good job lurking. So I want to then show a soundbite from that event that shows this. We've introduced you to this character, Mike Petum, and we've talked about him on episodes before. But we began to learn this guy kind of follows Bob Norris all over the place. Yeah. So here he is again, Bob Norris lurking in the background. And this is Mike Petum's contribution to the question and answer session.
To help us look at it all the way 360. But the very first thing is to go on the offense and start stopping the behavior.
And then we start working with our state legislators to find out things that we can actually legally do here in this county. And lest I be roasted because I get misquoted often, I'll say the details on the particulars. But there are things within our purview that we can do to stop this, and we haven't started it yet.
You're gonna take action and then figure out what's legal?
No, that's not what I said.
You just said that.
No, that is not what I said.
You state legislators and to find out legally what we could do, and then you
He
can.
says
Have you
first
listened?
thing
You're twisting.
Yeah.
Don't even twist it.
Good old Mike.
is to stop action. Stop.
Well, that's not what I said.
And Mike's done this since the beginning, and he represents Bob Norris. He follows Bob all over. He's Johnny on the spot. He's the one that made the famous video, I'm positive, of Bob standing in front of a burning wolf lodge, and follows him all over the place. So events, private events, campaign events, you will see Mike P. Toom right there helping Bob out.
Yeah, that I had another funny video, but apparently I didn't pull it into the platform here, so I'll have to miss that one. But it's more evidence that Mike P. Toom is around at parades with Bob Norris, just always flanking the guy. We've called him Norris's bouncer. So that ends up being another one of the usual players that we get introduced to. It didn't take long to figure that one out. And then we move into the Bob Norris's Show Your Proof challenge,
which again is still available on Rumble under Coeur d'Alene CDA Freedom Watch. I highly recommend that you watch this dog and pony show, this kabuki theater. Bob and Bruce were upset that I was asking morally and ethically driven questions with Bob's disability retirement, which is now over $187,000 a year, and his emotional outbursts. He's very unstable, continually cries or blows up and gets mad in public. And then, of course, a special deputization the county commissioner has with the sheriff. And we don't know if he's representing the sheriff at the Board of County Commissioner meetings when it comes to budgetary things or not. But Bob and Bruce didn't like that. So what did they do? Rather than as the representatives quickly answer the question, my sources were the Coeur d'Alene Press, the CDA Press from November 18th. They didn't like that, so they concocted this. We're going to gang up on Dan. We're going to call it a debate. It wasn't. Bob Norris sent me in his official capacity as Sheriff Bob Norris, demanded that I show up for the Show Your Proof event. And, well, you can see for yourself kind of how the flavor of that went. We refused to go to it. In fact, I took to task one of the pastors of that venue. And I just said, hey, this isn't right. You've already told me, Pastor, that the Bob and Bruce show that they lied to you about what the event was for, and that you were going to make it right. And I told them that I wasn't going to attend this event because of all the host of reasons that I said earlier. It wasn't an actual debate. And I don't know if you have any of that audio, but it would probably be good to play some of the snippets from a conversation I had with that pastor. And he says some interesting things.
Torque to myself that I'm wasting so much time when I'm trying to open up buildings for people. So that's all I'm trying to do.
Who are you torqued with?
Oh, I took Bob and Bruce. Bruce came with him, which I didn't know, but I should have figured that out. But I'm just tired of the immaturity.
Okay, so we're building up. He knew that Bob and Bruce were up to no good. He was supposed to meet with Bob, and who shows up with Bob?
Of course.
When he was going to confront Bob about, hey, Bob, you lied about why you wanted this event. You said it was for a town hall. All I was asking was, hey, do the right thing, Pastor, and put out a statement, which he said that he would do, stating, hey, this was really not what it was. We were led to believe it was. We're going to let you do the event anyway, but we are going to put a disclosure out there saying you weren't truthful.
Which that was your request.
That was my request.
So there's another soundbite from that conversation.
I'm getting tired of it myself, of wasting my time trying to do this. We've always opened our doors to pretty much anybody. He did tell me in the beginning that it was going to be a town hall, and it kind of turned out to be a blast stand thing. But he did say, and that's when I called you back, and I said he did say that if we could do this with a moderator there, then and I'd give those rules beforehand and just say that you can't have the Terrys and the people that are interrupting you all the time and stopping you from saying what you really want to say. Can't have that nonsense. If it's going to be a town hall, then it'll be an organized town hall.
So
did you
yeah.
believe that could you really put the feathers back in the
No,
pillow
I mean,
at that point?
because it wasn't an actual debate. It was a roast, Dan. I mean, they were going to bring a prosecutor in there. It was going to be this trial that I was going to be forced at. And I already know Bob and his tactics, and especially Bruce Mattare. Bruce Mattare from Washington, D.C., that dirty, corrupt politician. He was at the mastermind of it all. And again, this pastor, as you just heard, we have many more interesting things that he had to say about Bob and Bruce and others. Literally says, this was not what it was supposed to be, and it turned out to be a Blast Dan deal. And we would welcome an actual debate, where people like the lady that was on the vetting committee that kept coming to all of my events, that was asking me the same questions about hashtags, that she was not going to be able to interrupt me. Even the pastor by this time had come to understand what the local Republicans in that central committee were doing to me in my campaign.
So Bob Norris's Show Your Proof Challenge did indeed, the show went on, and we have just a snippet that's a gem from that event.
I mainly want to make a comment to all of you guys that live here in Idaho. I do not. But I am here specifically because I know Dan. He's got a ex-stepdaughter sitting over there that's terrified of him. I know what it has done to her through her life. He has posted that he has a restraining order on her. He does not. So think twice when you're electing anyone, because you don't want him.
And just for the record, I mean, have we ever met? I don't know who you are. I mean,
no, and I came from Montana to tell you guys.
And did I ask you to come? I don't know.
Nope.
Okay. All right. Wow. I just wanted to.
Okay. So in that, to tell you how dirty they were, Bob has plausible deniability because Bruce is the one that handles it for him. But that woman was my ex-wife's best friend from childhood. And you can see the person that she was pointing to was my ex-wife. This is how dirty Bob is. We also have verified proof that Bob Norris and my ex-wife colluded together, that they received a police report that Bruce Mattare was reading from in an earlier segment. This is how below the belt these guys are. So this is what the KCRCC is supporting. And those of you that call yourselves conservatives and want to say that Dan Wilson has thrown mud by taking the candidate on head to head, well, you and all your supporters that support this guy and this kind of behavior, Bruce and Bob are one and the same, and the pastors that are supporting this as well, this was what people are putting up with in this county. And I say, we're rejecting that. I will support everybody. I don't support only those in the KCRCC. I will support everybody countywide. I don't care if you're a Democrat. I don't care if you're a libertarian. I don't care if you're conservative or if you're a traditional anarchist. I will give everybody equal protection under the law because I so believe in the Bill of Rights and what the founders had to say, and I believe in everybody's First Amendment rights. I am the one to stand in the gap for the people of this county, and I'm really looking forward to it because I think this county will be transformed by the leadership that I'm going to bring with the solutions. We're going to talk about some of these solutions coming up pretty darn quick.
So what we just took you through was it was a journey through time of what Dan has been up against from local conservatives from the day that he announced. And so to say now that, oh, well, we just happened to find out that he was not a good guy and it's our duty and responsibility to let everybody know that. I mean, that it just cannot be true when these same actors were showing up on day one to attempt to defame and discredit.
Some of them are attempting right now to bring my own family into this again.
Yes. So,
and this is where people from this prominent church, and you know who you are already making noise that you are going to release things regarding my family. And I have refrained for the entire campaign of bringing the many things I know about Bob Norris and his family. But I implore the pastors, if you truly believe what you guys say in unity and in Christian love, my request to you is that you get a hold of these people, and it's not very hard. All you have to do is go on the local forums on Facebook, and many of your parishioners can probably point you pastors to this, and you need to put a stop to it. Because if you don't, you're going to prove that you guys are hypocrites and liars, and the people in this county are getting tired of what they're seeing coming out of these big churches that do not stand for the truth. And I do not align myself with anybody that is not part of the truth. I align myself with Jesus Christ in my belief, but I am every bit as honest and protective of everybody in this county. So
if you're want to have questions or comments, you still have time to put those into the comment section on whichever platform you're watching. We have more people joining us by YouTube, which I love to see.
I love YouTube.
They're chiming in, not questions so far. So if you've got them, put them in there. We have time to answer it. Bob Norris issued a press release today.
He did. Mm-hmm.
And that was kind of a head scratcher. And I want to say it was met with a lot of mixed reviews, even on his own. I think it was on the Kootenai County Sheriff page because yes, he's in campaign season, so he's doing what he needs to do for positive PR, but it's this gray line that you walk because he can release, obviously, statements as the sheriff, and here's what we're doing within the department. So that's on Kootenai County Sheriff Facebook page, press release. You have that here. So what's your take on this?
He released it right before our weekly live broadcast. Great timing. Okay, here it says, for those of you that can't read this online, I don't know how big we can publish that, but it says, Sheriff's Office takes initiative during uncertain times. Your safety is our priority. Millions of illegal border crossers, 2 assassination attempts on a presidential candidate, and upcoming anniversary of a war in the Middle East. These news stories are troubling in the Middle East, at our southern border, and especially in our own political process. I want you to know that your sheriff's office is proactively serving your community. I've instructed our sheriff's office to deploy additional resources to ensure that peace is maintained and for a more rapid response to events should one arise in your community. I encourage every resident to stay vigilant, and if you see something suspicious, do not hesitate to call your law enforcement agency. Sheriff Robert B. Norris by his personal assistant, Lisa Roberts.
Some of the comments on that post on the Kootenai County Sheriff Facebook page, it was very disconcerting for people because they're like, okay, this is kind of vague. And so what exact problem are you saying that we have?
Well, I'm going to dissect it.
What should I do? How do I need to prepare? I'm supposed to be looking out for something, but this now is alarming to me and it doesn't make sense.
Bob has a tendency to do this. In fact, as you recall, back the end of August, when the Board of County Commissioners and Norris were talking about these license plate readers, which, by the way, he suspended using back September 4th. So glad that message got out to you, Bob, that you need to halt this. We'll see how long he does that. But during that town hall, Board of County Commissioner meeting, rather, he says, that his license plate readers had actually captured a international crime syndicate operating right here in Kootenai County. And people are going, wait, what?
Yeah.
Who's operating here? What are they doing?
We have no signs of human trafficking, no early warning indicators of illegal immigration. But somehow these LPRs
we're not seeing illegal immigration. All we're seeing is people here working on their work visas. And, this is documented. Bob has continually doubled down that there's no human trafficking issues. And as you said, no illegal immigration. We're just seeing, visa workers here. But let's talk about this a little bit. So all of a sudden, he's now talking about millions of illegal border crossers. Well, what have I been saying for over almost a year? We've been warning about this because we know that these military-aged males from, fighting-age military males from the Middle East and Africa and China, you and I witnessed hundreds of them ourselves back in January down at the Arizona border. They're all over the country, and they're here for a specific reason. And to think that they're not up in Kootenai County, that's not good.
I will tell you, though, there are still arguments happening all over social media that say, you're an idiot, people aren't being bussed anywhere, we're fine here in Idaho, worry about Canada, I don't know what you're talking about.
And I'm not even as worried of the big buses with people, because at least you kind of see where they're going. I'm worried about these military-aged males, because they are shipping them tens of thousands all over this United States. And just because you don't see them does not mean that they are not here.
I mean, you and I have evidence that they're coming in smaller sedans and passenger cars.
Yeah. All right. So I'm going to break this up. So a couple questions here. So he says the news stories are troubling in the Middle East, at our southern border, and especially in our own political process. So my question to Sheriff Robert Bob Norris, are you concerned that we're not going to have a fair election? I mean, you're talking about our own political process. Does Jennifer Locke share your same assertion that there is potential risk right now at having a fair election? I mean, this you said in our own political process. And Bob, what have you done? What steps have you taken that you probably should have been making, I don't know, close to a year ago? What have you been doing in order to ensure that we have a fair and safe election? Safe from voter fraud. What are you doing? Jen Locke, are you part of this? Are you advising Bob Norris that there's a problem from our political process? And then what are you going to do if there is tampering? And by the way, Bob, you happen to be the beneficiary of an election right now. You're the one that's going to be controlling it if there happens to be nefarious actions that are taking place. And should we be trusting you? Should I, as a candidate running against you, trust you? I mean, you're the one that said this stuff. So now we desperately want to know what you know. You've instructed your sheriff's office to deploy additional resources to ensure the peace is maintained and for a more rapid response to events should one arise in your community. So what are you doing on that, Bob? Where are you placing these individuals? You already gave up a third of the county. You're not patrolling on tribal lands anymore. This is documented. We know this. You gave it up to tribal police when they asked to take over primary law enforcement for both tribal and non-tribal members. So my question is, why all of a sudden, when you've had months and months and months and months to be proactive, why are you saying this now? Is it just because you're 4 weeks away from an election that you happen to be running in? Or is it because you're finally understanding what Dan Wilson has been saying for a year, that the county, in order to maintain the rule of law, to make certain that our citizens are safe, you should have had an action plan many, many months ago? And anybody that wants to go back and verify, I've got 26 videos on YouTube for these weekly town halls. I've got numerous social media posts.
Oh, and I'll throw in there too, on our media page, we have a live stream archives. So you can just from at theidahosheriff.com, if you want to go back and see what Dan's talking about and all those archived episodes we have, that probably is right now the easiest way to find that.
And way to scare people, Bob. I mean, way to show that you have no leadership. Now, if you had been really being a leader, you would have gotten our Citizens Posse ready 4 years ago. And we're seeing in the East Coast the results of not having a community ready to band together to maintain the rule of law. We've seen the absurdity of the feds refusing to provide financial aid and states not able to do it. We see volunteers in their local communities that are being kicked out by state and local and federal law enforcement. I mean, these are the things that I've been talking about for a long time, but here's where I want the people in Kootenai County to have hope. We are a resilient people. We are a good people. We are a prepared people. And so it's very prudent right now, wherever you are, make certain that you have several weeks worth of food. It's not that hard to make certain you have food and water, you know, beans, rice, canned foods, just to be prepared. And I guess TP is now again in high demand.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, that is living proof that how effective social media communication and sharing those things on social media can be, because there was everybody in a panic over the lack of TP at the Coeur d'Alene Costco.
Yeah. So here's what I would say is that, we pray that nothing happens. I think this issue that I've been bringing to the forefront for many, many months now. We know that tough times are ahead of us, but I want people to have hope in this community, because together, even if you don't right now have a sheriff that has done his due diligence by getting ready for such events, there are people in this community that are leaders pick up the slack for Bob Norris and his inability to lead. And I plan on winning this election. And when I get into office, we are going to hit the ground running to make certain that we are including you guys. You guys are the solutions to all of these, concerning events. And the solution is you and us, shoulder to shoulder. We can get through anything. because we are going to be ready. There's great groups around town, but get ready. It's also advisable, get a radio. They make radios today that run off of different frequencies that reach out longer than a CB.
Well, and we were talking with a guy today who survived and had to escape a fire.
Yeah.
And in his
Paradise,
community, Paradise, California. And there was a point where they were stuck in traffic. It was gridlock. And for a lot of that time, they maintained cell service. And then at one point, that failed. And so all communication was gone. And that was a question you had to him. Okay, no CBs, no radios, no other form, because for the most part, people just are not prepared for that kind of situation.
And while we may not have a hurricane up here, we may not have tornadoes. What we do potentially have is earthquakes and wildfires. Citizens Posse is not just to respond to man-made events like terrorist attacks. It is every bit as important to be ready for natural events, because we face many more natural events than man-made. But again, folks in Kootenai County, be confident and assured that you and I and everybody else, if we band together, we can get through whatever rough times that may be ahead. Just stay positive and vote positively. Vote for a man who will bring balance to the Kootenai County Sheriff's Office. And we'll prepare this, because I love the citizens of this county.
A little bit, jumping back a little bit to the grief you've taken since you announced.
Yeah.
And we know it's going to increase as we've got just whatever you said, 34 days. 34 days. We've had some signs being stolen.
Yeah.
Like, what parts of town are signs being stolen?
Hayden happens to be an area where Hayden and Hayden Lake, they're stealing a lot of them out there. They're stealing them at Post Falls. In fact, I placed a sign.
We just had a guy that said, I don't see any of your signs in Post Falls.
3 days ago, we just placed a sign.
Because they're stealing them.
And yes, they're literally stealing them. There are other signs surrounding where ours are, and those signs are remaining standing, but ours are being taken. We know that these things are being taken by dirty, rotten scoundrels. And you know what? I can't say that it's being done by the other camp, but everything I have seen out of them, it would not surprise me.
Yeah.
But they're going to have a hard time catching up, because we're ready to deploy another 200 signs here in the next week. And if you happen to want some of those signs, you can reach out to us at theidahosheriff.com, info@theidahosheriff.com. We'll tell you where to go and get those. But we want to see these signs everywhere. Tell us if you've seen our billboard signs up on I-90 and on Highway 95. And more of our 6x6 banners are going up each and every day. If you happen to see one, go take a picture with it, send it in. We will repost it.
And for you sign thieves, you don't know which ones are going to have cameras on them, game cameras, so be careful. I'm going to put in one question here from a viewer on YouTube, and then we're going to have to wrap it up tonight because we have reached our hour. The question is, and asking for a friend. It's an asking for a friend.
Got it.
Since you have a strong belief in the Constitution, what are your views on felons automatically having their gun rights restored after completing their sentence?
So my belief is that if you've already served out your entire sentence, completed it its entirety, my belief is that you should have all of your rights granted back. I think that it's wrong, it's immoral to take somebody that has already paid their debt to society and then to further penalize them. I don't see felons not having their First Amendment rights back in full force. As a cop, a convicted felon who'd already served their sentence and completed it, when I encountered them on the street, I could not search their persons without probable cause. And I think that it's just immoral to not restore people's rights back. If the crime is so severe and the sentence is not adequate, then you need to go back to the lawmakers and the judges to correct that problem. But no, I believe that you should have all your rights restored. And I know that I differ than a lot of Republicans and conservatives, but I just don't see in the Bill of Rights where your rights are kind of sort of suspended. I don't know.
Yeah, so it really is a sentencing issue. Either you said to me once, because I had, when this topic first came up, even I was like, wait, what are you saying? If somebody committed a crime with a gun, maybe they should be restricted. Mm-hmm. But when you said if they've paid the debt, mm-hmm. They've paid their debt.
They've paid their debt.
It's
and furthermore,
simple
the
as that.
argument to say, well, they may commit another violent act, that's plain crap, because if they want to create another event, if they want to commit another heinous violent crime, they're going to obtain a firearm or another weapon to carry it out. I mean, look at all the invaders that have come across the border and look at what they're doing to kill people. I mean, people are resourceful. If they want to carry out a killing, they're going to find the means and the methods to do it, and the weapons. So I think that if we're going to be true to the Bill of Rights, then people's rights have to be restored, and it shouldn't be this long court process to get their rights restored. It should be automatic once they've paid their full debt.
All right. Bob Norris issued his press release today.
Yeah.
It was disconcerting to a lot of people. So in your hands, when you're providing leadership for this county, when you're elected and take office, what is that word of encouragement that you can leave people? You did that somewhat already in talking about preparedness, but how is your outlook and ability to communicate that hope to people different than what Bob Norris put out there today that just kind of like left people scratching their heads and a little bit fearful of are we really protected in this county, and what you, Dan Wilson, are going to do to prepare? How are you going to do that so that people will be at ease with the Kootenai County Sheriff's Office, knowing that you are doing the job, instead of coming in and making a statement like that says, okay, you haven't prepared. How are you going to prepare so that the county knows that they're safe with the times that we have ahead?
Sheriff Dan Wilson is going to level with the people. I'm going to advise you way in advance of things that I'm concerned about and give you the opportunity to get yourself and your families ready. In the event that something does come up fast and unexpected, I will be articulating that to the people. There's no reason for law enforcement not to level with the people. So you can expect out of me complete transparency. I'm going to lead you to let you know what potentially you may be facing as a citizen of this county, but I'm going to always give you hope, because we did not descend from fearful men. We descended from men who understood the times, they acted accordingly, and they pledged their lives, their fortunes, and their sacred honor. And that tradition has been passed over and over and over again, generation after generation, and now it looks like it might be right here on our own doorstep. So stay encouraged, be prepared. Buy food, buy ammo, buy guns. Even if you don't like guns, buy guns. Learn how to shoot. Protect your family, protect your neighbors. Do good to all that you can whenever you can. Pray hard, but more importantly, have hope. Let's be that shining city on a hill, so to speak, for all other counties around this region and in the world. Know what a free people look like that are united together in the cause of liberty without compromise. So God bless you all tonight. Stay strong and of good courage. We'll see you very, very soon.
Thank you for joining us tonight on the Idaho Sheriff Livestream broadcast with Dan Wilson for Kootenai County Sheriff. We're here every Wednesday night at 7 p.m. And the best place to watch archive broadcasts is on our YouTube channel. That's The Idaho Sheriff. Just look that up there in the search bar on YouTube. Go to YouTube to listen and subscribe. For the Idaho Sheriff Podcast, listen and subscribe wherever you get your shows. And podcast listeners, try watching live every Wednesday night at 7 p.m. It's fun. Learn more about Dan Wilson, his platform, policies, viewpoints, and endorsements at theidahosheriff.com. I have one more thing to add.
Yeah.
Charity Joy.
Yeah.
Charity Joy.
Yeah.
Charity Joy.
How many did that cost her?
I think that's going to be 3 contributions.
3 contributions. By the way, the helicopter hasn't flown since September 12th.
Oh.
That's curious.
I wonder if Dan Wilson's having an impact on LPRs.
Mm-hmm.
And
insurance on the helicopter?
Maybe insurance on the helicopter.
I don't know. I think you and I should discuss this over a fine scotch and a cigar. What do you think?
I think so.
Hey, folks, thank you so much for joining. And to our fearless sign wavers, appreciate you being out there when I couldn't. See you guys soon.
Thank you, Terry. Yes, thank you. Thank you for
Jim.
waving those signs.
Thank you, Jim. Thank you to all of our team and supporters. Love you all.